Gem from the Lord here. Generous equals love, joy. This is a huge word from the Lord, and we're going to just jump straight to the kisser and set our minds on this one. Generous equals love, joy. There are two huge famous words in the story of God that scream this out. Okay, so we just finished solving the word favorite. Okay, love is God's favorite. Love is at the dead center of the word favorite, using the famous word our. 3 letters that all divide by 3 that add to love. The first word in the Lord's Prayer, our Father, who art in heaven. Okay, our Father, love Father, the greatest commandment. Okay, but look at the word generous. It contains that ROU, which equals love, a very famous triple that all divide by 3, going up in threes, 15, 18, 21. And then what's left over is a glaring joy package. Okay, remember 3 is the number of love. And there's your 3 letters that all divide by 3, okay, that add to love perfectly in generous. What's left over? Exactly 5 letters that add to joy perfectly. Remember, 5 is the number of joy. What are those letters in order? It's the word genes, as in Genes. Joy is in your genes. You were born for joy. In fact, you came into existence out of 2 people, a male and a female, experiencing one of the highest feelings of joy that they ever felt in their life when they came together, okay, in love, and produced you in your mother's womb. Joy, okay? You were created in joy. You exist for God's joy. Joy is in your genes. God even built your beautiful brain, okay, to avoid pain and to love pleasure in all holiness, okay? That's His design, so just thank Him for it. So joy is in your genes. Oh, that's good. So whoa, that's a smoking hot set of letters. So take the word genes, squeeze all the 5s out of it. That's the game. The 2 E's, irresistible. Man, you feel like you're playing Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, I'd like to buy a vowel. E, yes, there are 2 E's, and the crowd goes. So genes has 2 E's in symmetry, and then the 3 letters left over, the GNS adds perfectly to 40. So genes in 5 letters adds perfectly to 50, which equals joy, making the average value of each letter 10 exactly. Okay. You can ram all these strings into your anagram solver just to check for other gold and wisdom whenever you get treasure like this. You're playing Scrabble with the King of the Universe, as you should. He's your father. GENES. Anagrams for that? Anyone in the crowd? Anyone have an anagram for GENES? Almost seeing off the top of my head. I don't know of one. I can look it up, but that's the main thing. So back to the word generous. Generous is a love joy combo. To be generous is someone who loves joy. Okay. I feel led to mention this. You're going to love this. In Hebrew, mathematically, you're going to love this one. And this coincides perfectly with this whole revelation. In Hebrew, mathematically, the word love is at the dead center of the word giving. And the word giving is mathematically at the center of the word love. Here's how this works. In Hebrew, 3 letters for love is ahav. Okay. A 5 at the dead center, the whole thing adds to 8. In Hebrew, the 3-letter word for giving is natan, okay, which is 50, 50 times 8, 50, adding to 500 in total. So, it's very obvious, okay? The grand total of love is 8, which is at the dead center of the word giving. The grand total of giving is 500, also known as, the all shining stardom on the number 5, okay, being composed of 3 letters, 50, 8 times 50, 50. And that is at the dead center of love. So mathematically, okay, love is at the center of giving, and giving is at the center of love. In Hebrew, anyways, it's pretty mind-blowing. But that's a good one. Generous, love, joy. Same thing as blood flow. So Wow. So a precise anagram, a two-word anagram of generous is our genes. So I'm going to preach this. This is preaching fit for a king. Are you ready for this? Okay. Imagine me being the head of a country or some kind of leader over people. Here we go. To be generous is in our genes. Oh yeah. That was a good one. That was a good one. That was a good one. And all the people were like, yeah, I felt that. Oh yeah, that was just plain good. All words are ordained by heaven. They were mathematically foreordained for God's maximum glory and perfection. So, when you realize that the word our, which equals love, and the word genes, which equals joy, are staring you in the face, in the word generous, it behooves you to preach the message. To be generous is in our genes. People are like, oh yeah. And it actually is, because our genes, made by God on the inside of us, were made to exhibit multiplication. And it is generosity that unlocks God's financial multiplication in your life. That is what the Bible tells us from beginning to end, an endless Christian testimony from great Christian leaders all over the world, stories galore. When you give, well, Jesus said it, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That final word that he speaks of abundance in Greek is a one-shot gem in the entire Bible. It reads hyperperissos. It literally means like hyper overflow, okay? And now the timing is up to God. That's the main thing, okay? God reserves the timing up to himself, just like the timing of Jesus' return is left up to the Father. But the commandment is an invitation. Give, and it will, not maybe, it will be given to you in a greater measure than you gave to someone in need, okay? And a Gematria gem on that verse is give and it shall be given unto you. Notice that when the word becomes given, now you've hooked your life up to the vine, who is Jesus, because the N on the end of give now completes the letters vine, and vine equals joy. So when you give, it shall be given unto you. You've now been hooked up to the vine, who is Jesus, the financial owner of everything in the universe and the one who can create anything out of thin air. So when you give anonymously to the poor, when you give, you now hook yourself up to the vine, who is Jesus, the owner and creator of all things. You've hooked yourself up to the vine. Now the vine promises it shall be given unto you. And the word given now ends in vine. I-V-E-N. Give, and it shall be given unto you. You've hooked yourself up to the vine. And Jesus told us the wisest way to give anonymously, and give it to the poorest. Give it to the greatest, the most needy thing you can. Give it to the most needy person. Give it to the poorest person that you can right now. Jesus said, give to people who can't pay you back. Give to people in need, and do it anonymously. When you give that way, you hook yourself up to the invisible vine named Jesus, and the joy that comes, vine equals joy. Give, and it shall be given. There's your vine unto you. And then the one-shot gem. Now, the timing is up to him. Okay? And but it's a one-shot gem for the abundance, hyperperissos, hyperabundance, essentially. How did we get on that flood of glory? Oh yeah, we were talking about the word generous, and then it led me to the message to be generous is in our genes, and then that led to the concept of genes being born from multiplication. That's how your genes ultimately produce you, is through multiplication. And so when you are generous in accordance with the commands of Jesus, giving anonymously to the poor, God promises multiplication of all gifts that you give, and it supernaturally comes back to you in harvests on your seed at some point in the future that is up to God. Typically, from what I have experienced in life and what I have heard of in testimonies all over the world from Christians, is that the harvest usually comes in less than a year. Just like God ordained most food seeds that get planted in the ground, the harvest for that seed often comes within a year, according to the sacred seasons of God. Okay, so, yeah. So, there you go. Fantastic preaching on the word generous. To be generous is in our genes. You gotta say this stuff. Someone has to say this. Oh, man, people. Get some... Okay. To be generous, I can just see the kids now. To be generous is in our genes. They'll be like talking to their little friends. They'll be like, kids will be like throwing apples at each other, like handing out chocolates on the streets. They'll be like, to be generous is in our genes. And they'll be like throwing their change on the sidewalk, knowing that they're getting multiplied millions from God in the future. It'll actually happen. To be generous. So anyone can do it. Yeah, to be generous is in our genes. That's a good one. That's a zinger, fit for a Martin Luther King Jr. follow-up. Good stuff. To be generous is in our genes. That's a good one. So, lots of fun. Generous, love, joy. Amazing. And generosity is a real thrill. It's a real kick, actually. Like if you are a joy seeker, a holy joy seeker, you learn to love this phenomenon of giving anonymously to people. Okay? Because it actually is a thrill. It actually is a thrill. Love, joy, generous. Makes sense to me.